Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today I want to talk about my game from last night. So, last night we were running, I want to say it's our 16th or 17th episode of The Forgotten Throne, which we run every Wednesday. And if you're watching that, tune out right now. Go watch all those, catch up before you watch this. This is about Season 2, Episode 4. From the Ruins to the Royal Woods. Royal Wood. So what happened is I had an encounter that may have been a little bit too difficult for my party. They are level 7, and before I jump into last night's encounter, I do want to preface this with a few things from the past. At low levels, they happen to beat a druid lich with some creative thinking after going through a whole dungeon, and they've defeated many other tough things that were meant to be tougher than their level. But that one was a big one. And they have been able to navigate around other encounters, such as when they came across the big bad evil guy, which is a ancient shadow dragon. Which, to give you guys some scope there, it's basically a gold dragon, ancient gold dragon, reskinned and some stuff changed that kind of go more with the shadow dragon feel. And they, with that one, they managed to escape it, right? That was at like 5th level. And they basically ran from it. So, last night, we were playing, and I gave them some clues like, hey, you know, these 2 dragons are overhead with riders on their back. And then I said, you know, that they landed off in the woods. And I had said at one point, you know, you could see the 2 dragon heads above the trees looking down on people. And then the players, and the whole time players were kind of waiting, and a couple of them moved up to kind of get into the woods. But they're along a road with a bunch of women, children, and men who are just commoners. They're not warriors or anything like that. And in my mind, there were about 60 of these people. Now, the players didn't tell them to run or anything. They just, it's almost like they were waiting for it. And again, whatever, you know, however they play is fine. So I made a mistake. I made the mistake of assuming what my players would do. And as a DM, you should never do that, right? So the other thing is, I've told them from day one, I don't plan encounters around CR levels or anything like that. I just do what I think is cool, and I expect the players to adapt and react. So I set up this encounter, and it had 2 CR14 black dragons modified, so they're probably a little weaker than that, but not much. And then I had 4 Orcs of Grumsh reskinned for flavor, gave them an invisibility ability. And then I had a leader for them that was the same kind of deal, right? Reskinned him. He was something else. He was like a CR4. So again, this was a tough encounter. Like, they were not meant to stand there and fight to the end. And, you know, with some creative use of spells or creative, I think, thinking, maybe they could have come up with something to either defeat them, or I think they could have come up with a strategy for retreat. Now, they did some good stuff, don't get me wrong. However, one spell was cast blindly into an area that was rough. But that was well thought out. There was a fireball that I had said would probably only hit 2 of the orcs. They knew there were 2 dragons, you know, and I understand targeting the orcs because the orcs were in front of the dragons. But yeah, I don't know. I still think they could have handled it if they wanted to fight the monsters in a different way. You know, they weren't looking for cover behind trees, nothing like that. So again, there were some things that were left on the field. Now, they killed a few of the orcs. I did mess up some of that. They should have been able to wipe out all the orcs pretty easily, it seemed. And then just worried about the dragons. However, And that's if they stayed to fight, right? However, I messed it up, so then they spent some of their turns attacking orcs. They probably shouldn't have, based on how things unfolded. And the thing is, the dragons did their breath weapons, and they hit both of the fighters. One's an arcane archer, one is level 6 fighter, one level cleric. Not a healing cleric, by the way. That came up in one of my posts last night. And people were like, well, I hope it was a healer. So, anyways, they dropped... Well, they would have dropped the one level 6, level 1 fighter, cleric, if he wasn't a half-orc. But he popped back up, and, that was fine. So then the wizard moved up, cast invisibility on both the fighters, and the fighters bailed like he told them to. However, based on initiative, he was left there with 2 dragons. He got bit and clawed twice. And I think he was only hit by one of the claws. But that dropped him to 0. And then the dragons moved forward, and the invisibility wore off on both the fighters. Well, the arcane archer has misty stepped, so she misty stepped behind the dragons, grabbed the fallen wizard, used stealth to hide him. The dragons were going after the half-orc fighter then, because that's the only one they see. The main orc is still up, but he turns invisible every round from the end of his round to the start of his next turn. So he's hard to hit. But he's also going after the orc. So you got 2 dragons and a full-blooded orc going after our half-orc. There's a good chance... Okay, I'll be in a sec. Thank you. There's a good chance there's going to be a TPK. If there's a TPK, I feel a little bad. However, the 2 fighters are totally fine with it. They're like, yeah, we'll make backup characters. Our wizard's a little upset. I get that. And he was more upset because he didn't understand that they weren't young dragons. He thought they were smaller. And, that's a little bit on me for description. However, I did kind of explain that their heads were above the trees and stuff like that. So again, I do think I gave clues. I probably just didn't give enough. And so I need to be more clear with the size of things. I need to give more clues in general. Like, maybe like their footprints are really deep into the dirt, whatever. Anything I can say to give off how intimidating it is. But in the past, they knew to run from dragons or certain creatures. They ran from a corpse flower. They've done these things. And they've killed things that were far above their power level, such as the Druid Lich. But the Druid Lich has a phylactery, so he'll be back. In fact, I think they saw him again after that. I might be wrong. But yeah, it's a lot going on. So anyways, do you have these problems in your games? I tend to sometimes struggle with my descriptions, whether it's location. So I feel like I'm doing better with my dungeon layout descriptions. I started writing those out a little better and preparing it a little better. But now it takes a lot of time for me just to come up with the dungeon layout and descriptions of every little thing. But for me, that's necessary in order for the players to have a good understanding of what's going on. Maybe that's something I need to do more with my monsters. So what do you do? When you're prepping monsters, what do you write in there? If you want them to know how intimidating something is, what do you put in there? Like, what is it you do? In other words, comment below with how you plan your encounters. Do you think that I was out of line throwing this at a level 7 party? I'm very curious what you think. And maybe I'm not. Maybe you think, hey, there's 2 dragons. They're level 7. They should have run. I don't know. Let me know below. And if you haven't yet, be sure to go check out our campaign. I'm going to post a little click-a-do thing up here for you guys to click on if you want to go watch that playlist from episode 1 on. We're about 16 episodes in. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a good group. 2 of our original 4 are gone. We're playing with 3 players now. And if you're still watching this, you might be interested in playing in this game. We do have an opening for a 4th player. I'm going to carefully vet it to make sure they fit with the group. And, we're only going to take people that we think are going to fit well. So if that sounds like something you would be able to do, let me know. Join my Discord if that's something you want to do, and then private message me there. So that's it. This was Master of the Game. I am Juice. Game on.